Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to be talking about 9 huge lies about the cost of living in a camper van that nobody talks about. Now there are a lot of myths and misconceptions when it comes to the true cost of RV life. And some of these can be seen on YouTube. Today we're going to take you through the lies and misconceptions of the true cost of RV life to better prepare you for traveling or living in a camper van. Oh, but first we are closing in on our 200,000 subscriber milestone, y'all. So if you haven't done so, take a second, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell and join us on all of our amazing adventures we have to come. And we thank you. Now, we have been traveling and living in our camper van Desert Snow for over 3 years now. And when we first started, we shared many of the same lies and misconceptions about the cost of living in a camper van that we'll be discussing today. So let's get into it. Lie number 1, maintenance costs will be less if you pay up for a top-of-the-line RV. Now there's a popular saying, you get what you pay for. And when we were looking into buying our first camper van, we had an erroneous assumption that if we paid up for a more expensive RV, that we wouldn't have as many maintenance issues versus if we paid for a much cheaper RV. This, however, has been a proven mistaken assumption that we have heard from many others as well. You know, even if you pay for a really expensive RV, you are going to have maintenance issues, and some can be pretty costly, especially when your warranty runs out.
And actually, the reality is that the maintenance cost for a more expensive RV or camper van could actually be much higher, right, than what it would be for a cheaper RV. And the reason for that is that you're kind of signing up for more bells and whistles, fancier appliances, right, fancier like power window shades or things like that could break, and so those things can add up for sure over time. So just make sure that you leave room in your budget for maintenance costs over the course of the year.
Lie number 2. It's always easy to avoid taxes and registration costs by registering in a non-tax and low-fee jurisdiction.
While many RVers register their RV in states with no or very low taxes or fees, it's really important to make sure you actually have a connection and with that state, and are not just doing that and making up some type of connection to try to avoid taxes. That can actually be illegal and get you into trouble, especially if you have, say, a domicile and residence in another state. If you have an apartment or a home where you spend a ton of time in another state, that can get you into some trouble. Just be careful.
Now, we realize many RVers do this, and especially if you're full-time RVing without a permanent residency, this could be a good option. But we highly recommend contacting a professional accountant to actually give you the best options for your circumstance, making sure you're not doing anything illegal that can get you and your RV in big trouble. Lie number 3. You don't need to worry about your RV's depreciation if you plan on living in your RV long term.
Now, obviously, buying an RV can be very, very expensive, with many running well over $100,000. Right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is, once you buy the RV and drive it off the dealer's lot, that has already lost a lot of value. And RVs are significant depreciating assets. They're going to just continue to lose value over time. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind as you buy your RV. Even if you plan to live in it for a long time, you do want to keep in mind what that resale value will be, what that replacement cost will be for you going forward.
Yes, this depreciation cost and eventually the replacement cost of your home on wheels is a real cost that you really need to factor in when considering living in your camper van. You know, just think of it this way. When you drive off that lot with your brand new motorhome, you're gonna gain a ton of great memories, but you're gonna lose a lot of value. Lie number 4. Fuel costs won't be an issue. You just need to limit your travel. RVs, especially large RVs, and some of those crappy small RVs too, can get terrible miles to the gallon. And a lot of you watching this right now know exactly what we're talking about. High five. But I have to say this, you know, even with fuel prices moderating, expect to shell out some buku dollars with each refill, especially if you're traveling any distance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, you can reduce your fuel costs if you stay put and stop and camp for longer durations in those spots you decide to camp at.
Right, but however, I mean, we love to travel and explore the country. Part of our love for RV life is being able to travel the country, that freedom.
Yes, the freedom.
to travel the country, visit those small towns, hidden gems across the country, just experience, the United States and this great country. And so, having to limit our ability to travel because of fuel costs is not something we're prepared to do. Certainly, I agree, we should slow down, right? Slow down, spend more time in each campsite, but at the same time, fuel costs are always going to be a major issue for us and cost for us as we travel and explore the country.
Yeah, and if you have been following us for any amount of time, y'all know we love to explore the hidden gems of this country. As a matter of fact, if you haven't seen any of those episodes, you should definitely go check those out, because I swear to you, you'll be hooked, packing up your RV and hitting those spots as well. Now, in addition to the fuel costs of the chassis, for your motorhome or your pickup truck or however you're traveling to your next destination, we have to talk about that propane cost, because that's also pretty expensive, right?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And if you do rely on propane, say for your heat or cooking, you can burn through the propane very quickly, especially in cold weather, cold winter months. I mean, here in Desert Snow, we go through our propane pretty quickly when we're winter camping up in the snow.
And we have great insulation.
Yeah, we have great insulation. And many RVs have horrible insulation. And so trying to stay warm in the winter, you're going to be running that heat all the time, running that propane, going right through it.
Yeah. So those fuel costs, y'all, can add up pretty quickly. Lie number 5. Campground fees won't be a big expense. Just avoid the fancy RV camp resorts. Now, for most RVers or people living in a camper van, you're going to be spending many nights camping at RV campgrounds that require a fee. Now, we do recognize there are budget RVers out there that enjoy boondocking or BLM land or other free alternatives such as we do love that. But for many, you are going to be staying at campgrounds and spending money on those campground fees.
And you might be spending more on campground fees than you actually expect. RV campground fees and resort fees have increased quite a bit over the past several years, and those can be very expensive. Some can be over $100, some even like well over $100, which is
per night.
which is pretty nuts. Now, one way to help reduce that cost is to try to stay at places on a monthly basis. Get that monthly rate. That can save you a lot of money. Now, when we began RVing, we didn't realize just how much we would spend on campground fees, right? And also the resort fees as well. Both of those fees really can be very expensive and really something you need to consider in your monthly budget.
And really quick, getting back to those monthly rates, if you find a campground that allows you to do monthly, well, even though that might be cheaper than, say, those daily rates, you got to factor in a couple things. You got to factor in that utility cost. Right. A lot of places will have you pay for your utilities, and those fees can really add up and crank up during the summer months, especially when you need to crank that AC almost all day, every day, and especially for us that have pets, it can get really expensive. Lie number 6, you will no longer have to spend money on any alternative housing.
Now, of course, one of the true cost savings of living in a camper van, especially full-time, is that you don't have to pay a rental payment or a mortgage payment on a traditional sticks and bricks home. And that's great, it's a true cost savings. But that can also create challenges as well. If you're living full-time in your camper van, you can also expect that you're going to need to get some repairs done, some maintenance work done, warranty done. Your rig may be at the dealership getting work done, maybe in for repairs or things like that. And when that happens, you may need to find an alternative place to live, and that can be expensive.
Oh, it really can. And in our experience, the amount of RV repair and warranty work on an RV can sometimes be more than you expect.
Oh, yeah.
Which means you're going to have to find alternate means of housing. Sometimes you can stay in your RV while things are getting repaired, and a lot of times you cannot. Which means you're going to have to find an Airbnb. You're going to have to find a hotel to stay in, which could be days or it could be weeks. And tack that into having pets and cats in particular. Dogs, a lot of Airbnbs might take dogs, but there's a lot that won't take cats. So those are a lot of loopholes that we had to find, which can be pretty costly, especially when you have no other alternative. Lie number 7, you won't have to worry about RV storage costs.
The reality is that for most RVers, there are going to be times when you need to store your RV, especially if you are not full-time, or if you're going on a trip, say going overseas or going on a cruise. You want to find a place to keep your RV when you're away.
And this can be a challenge, especially if you don't have a home or a comfortable spot to park your RV, which means for many, you're gonna have to find RV storage, and that can be pretty expensive. especially if you want that indoor air-conditioned storage versus outside in the parking lot dealing with the environment.
Now for us, our home base tends to be Southern Nevada,
Yes.
which can be incredibly hot.
Ooh, it's been 20 degrees, baby.
In the middle of the summer. And so if we're going on a vacation with our kiddies outside of the RV, maybe going on a flight somewhere or something like that, it's very important for us to find a storage area for our RV that is outside of the elements, because otherwise we're afraid it's going to melt there in the sun.
Lie number 8, food costs will be much cheaper living the van life. Let me take this one, babe. So when we first started out, we really looked forward to embracing that minimalistic lifestyle of living in a camper van. And that includes cooking simple meals. And I love cooking some awesome meals.
Now, trying to cook some amazing meals. I am a lucky guy.
Yes, he is. I love feeding my man.
Yeah.
Now, while that is all true, you know, we have found, especially during those long driving days, that we tend to eat out more often and more frequently than we ever used to when we used to live in the sticks and bricks.
Right, that's true.
You know, and also when you're living in a small camper van with a small kitchen and minimalistic appliances like no oven, you know, that reward of going out to eat a fancy meal can be tempting and a welcoming break from that small camper van experience. You know, and when we initially thought about saving money, especially when it comes to food, well, it really hasn't been the case for us. Not only because I like to cook fancy, delicious meals in the RV, but we also like to take that break and go out and eat that fancy steak dinner.
Exactly. And for us, a fancy meal is like Cracker Barrel.
Ooh, Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Lie number 9. Your costs for everyday household type things will go way down.
Related to our last point, we expected to save a lot more money on regular household things since we'd be living in such a small camper van. Now, obviously, we didn't need to go out and buy like a lot of furniture or things like that since we aren't living in a sticks and bricks home. It's a much smaller space. But one thing we didn't think about was that because of our limited space, we couldn't really go out and buy items in bulk and really get those cost savings. You know, you think about it, like good luck going to Costco and getting the huge, you know, thing of Kirkland paper towels or toilet paper, or even like the multiple cartons of milk and OJ at much better per unit prices than you'll find at like convenience stores or even grocery stores. We find ourselves buying much smaller quantity of items that actually can fit into our small fridge or in the back area of our garage at like small grocery stores and convenience stores. That can, on a per unit basis, be much more expensive.
And while we saved on the need to buy lots of furniture and things like that you'd find in a traditional home, we did have to go out and spend money on necessary things. You know, especially for us as being full-time content creators, we needed things like multiple Wi-Fis, hotspots, cell phone services, which can add up and gets pretty costly. Versus if you were in a traditional sticks and bricks, you'd have one cable service and you're good to go. Amongst other necessities, things like we need, such as like the kitchenware, all my cooking essentials and things like that. Dave, most importantly, he needs those grills, fire pit, his tools, my girl gaming setup, my PlayStation games, you know, all those necessities.
Right, just doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't.
Quick question for you. Are there any misconceptions about the cost of living in a camper van we haven't talked about? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to read about that.
Absolutely. And if you have Instagram, be sure to follow us over on Instagram at LetsTurnItUpWorld. We have a lot of great content that we post in real time we think you would enjoy. And one last thing. If you want to know 9 huge lies about the safety of living in a camper van that no one talks about, well, watch that video right here. It's up on the screen. I think it's on this side. I think it's here, but it might be here. But I'm going to do this just in case. It's right there, y'all. All right, y'all. And we'll see you in the next one.